Hey, we're Zane's Father Chris here. Welcome to our Crucifictional live stream. Glad to have you beautiful people with us on this glorious Wednesday. It is hump day in the middle of chaos week. We're talking about the chaos in the world, the chaos that you and I feel in our lives, and it comes to us in many forms. And if you take just a brief moment and think about your own life, I bet you could come up with a long list of all of the things that are chaotic. And the different part of that, or let's say the desire rather than the chaos that we're living in, is to find peace. I mean, I don't mean just the absence of war. I mean, clearly that's a part of it, but peace that where we know in our hearts and minds that everything's just about like it's supposed to be. In fact, biblically, the word peace, you may know this from the Hebrew shalom, it means that things are as they are supposed to be, right? That God designed it and things have met that design, have maintained that design that God has blessed creation with. That's what peace means. And somewhere I know that in my heart, and I'm sure in yours and in my mind, that I want to just be able to have a day where I'm like, oh, everything's like it's supposed to be. It's tough to find because they're very rare and they're fleeting. And so in all of the chaos that we're enduring, that's somehow like blocking us from that peace we're trying to get to, we've got to find a way to overcome it, right? We've got to find a way to conquer that chaos so that we can arrive at a sense of peace, right? How do you do it? It's really funny because one of the products of, if you will, of this chaos that we feel is that we become hangry. You all may know what I'm talking about from Snickers, right? Betty White, you're just not you when you're hangry, right? And hangry is a funny word for the Snickers commercial when we get hungry. And their point is like, eat a Snickers, you become you because you're full and so on. And really, when we're angry, in the midst of the chaos, we're really not ourselves. We're really somehow far from peace because we know that if peace is defined as things things are as they're supposed to be, well, when we're angry, things ain't like they're supposed to be, right? And so the chaos that leads to the fear we talked about yesterday and produces the anger that we may be experiencing at this moment or at other moments in our lives, we know we're not who we're supposed to be. We're not right. Somehow we're not in the right frame of mind, the right frame of heart, the right frame of soul, that somehow we're off. And we get like truly mindless when we're angry, right? Like, I mean, when the emotions come in, and I'm talking about the emotion of anger, and we want to like, rip someone's head off for something they may have said or done, that we become irrational, illogical, almost, let me say it, stupid, right? Like, I mean, we know it. I know that's a harsh word, but like we become stupid in our thinking and we say and do things that we look back later when we're not angry and we're like, oh, I needed a Snickers. You know what I mean? Because we're like, holy cow, I was hangry and I said and did things that I wished I didn't say and do, right? Like this is not, it's not uncommon. I can't imagine it's just me. Maybe it is. Is it just me? He says no. But either way, I'm sure you feel it. I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. You're not quite right when you're angry. So how do we deal with that? Because anger it's a part of the chaos that's preventing us from our peace, and it's also the obstacle, one of the obstacles that leads into the chaos, right? So like part of this chaotic world, look, here it is. Like I didn't talk really through this yet, but the truth of the matter is the chaos in the world, the devil is sowing anger and discord and division. I mean, it's the devil's playground out there, right? And as a product of what he's sowing is this chaos that's blocking us from our peace. How do we get through that kind of stuff? Because as we just saw, sometimes we participate in and become overwhelmed by and maybe even contribute to that anger, right? And then we're not ourselves. So how do we find, what's the path to get over this chaos, to conquer this chaos so that we might find that sense of peace that we're desperately craving, right? What's the answer to that question? What do I do? I think the simple answer is that this moment, right now, I'm not talking in 5 minutes. I'm not talking when this video ends. I'm talking about right now. It's time for you to become a man or a woman who enters the way of the warrior saint. The way of the warrior saint is that process that goes, I don't want to say through, that conquers the chaos and finds itself on the way towards peace as God designed it. Do you understand? The way of the warrior saint is the way that imitates Jesus Christ. And it's time for you to follow it, right? Like he went through the chaos of death on the cross and he ended up in the peace of the empty tomb. See it? You and I are called to do exactly the same thing and follow exactly the same path and to take exactly the same steps by carrying our own cross. We call that, as warrior saints on this path, living a crucifixional life. Being crucifixional is the sacrifice of I for the sake of you. The sacrifice of my will to make room to do God's will. It's putting me second. That's what it means to be crucifixional, which is exactly what Jesus Christ did, right? And he's the Lord, and he's called us to follow him. In order for us to live crucifixionally, we need a little bit of help. I do. We need a little guidance. It doesn't just come naturally to me. Natural to me is to, dwell in that anger and to revel in that anger. I sometimes enjoy it when someone makes me upset and I get angry and I lash back. Somehow inside that very base element, I feel good. But we know that's nothing more than a simple case of being hangry and I'm just not myself. So how do I overcome that anger? How do I live crucifixionally? You do so with 3 steps. Number 1, visit this website that you see right there, warriorsaints.org. It's also clickable down there in the stuff below. Number 2, scroll down to the middle of that page. You're going to see a bunch of things. One of them you're going to see is our book, The Way of the Warrior Saint. Get it and read it. Number 2 is The Way of the Warrior Saint, our online educational library filled with teachings that are Christ-centered. In fact, they are the very best effort we've got to give, man. I mean, it's the message of the gospel in beautiful video format. And then, number 3, watch the video. Watch it, go to the website, subscribe, and watch. Once you do that, you're off to the races on your way to becoming a warrior saint. And when you do that, the chaotic storm around you is not going to go away, but you are going to be a different person. You are going to be a transformed man or woman who has the tools and inside you the power to conquer that chaos, arrive at peace. The only way to do that is, like always, to keep walking on the way of the warrior saint.